Okay, here's the amplifier for the to be converted to battery operation 45EY2. It's just a representative amplifier. What I first do is I strip all the parts off this thing, except the volume control and the volume control area. I leave the tube sockets. It's more work to take them out than they're worth, and I don't have any use for them right now. Anyway, you leave the audio cable from the changer, leave that on there, and leave everything in the volume control area, which is just this one capacitor here. Don't worry that this is still wax. Doesn't make any difference. It's not in any kind of a stress environment, so it doesn't matter what condition it's in as long as it's there. It's all part of the loudness compensation circuit. This resistor stays, and this capacitor back here on the back, the mica capacitor, stays. Everything else gets cut off. It's going to leave you with a blank hole here, or an unused hole in the middle of the volume control, which we'll use later. And now what you want to do is make your ground connections. The ground is this. When you take out the big filter capacitor, I always leave the black wire attached for now. You may even need it later. But it gives you good reference as to where the negatives are. And your negative line goes back to here. There's several. Everything connects to the negative here. You can see the wires all connect to it. Goes to the bottom of the volume control. You want to run a line from this negative line here over to the shielded part, to this wire right here, so that the chassis is grounded as well as the regular negative part of the power supply. They kept it isolated when they built it for safety reasons, so that the line, AC line, was not connected to the chassis. Not needed anymore because you don't use the power cord anymore. Speaking of which, make sure you cut the power cord off. It'd be a disaster if you plugged it in when you converted it to battery and by mistake plugged it in. So cut it off and get it out of there. One of the wires that's left over from the strain relief up to this terminal block, I'm using that as a wire to bring over to the any unused pin on the 35W4 socket, and that's going to be a tie point for the negative wire of the battery snap. Notice that both battery snap wires come through the center rivet, the red and the black, through the center rivet. The red wire is going to connect to the yellow wire up to the switch. The black wire is going to connect to your negative line, which goes up to this terminal strip and then out to the rest of the circuit. That's your battery wiring. The amplifier, your DC input wire, is right here, red and black. The red is going to attach to the red wire over here. Not to the red wire coming down from the switch. The red DC input to the amp goes to the red wire that's coming back from the switch. Black wire goes to any convenient ground. Here, anywhere it'll fit. You have two wires coming out on this far side of the amp are the speaker wires, one each to each side of the speaker. The input wires, which on this thing are labeled, on this amplifier, whoopsie daisy, is labeled MIC. That's not for Mickey Mouse, it's for microphone. In this case, I've wired this amplifier differently so it can be used for a ceramic cartridge. These go over to the input. Now, these wires here, the red wire is going to go right to the center of the volume control and solder it on to that point right there. That's going to feed the signal to the amp. The negative black wire is going to go to any of the minus terminals, any place you want to put it that's convenient, that's negative. And that wires the amplifier in. Very easy. You can mount the amp to the chassis anywhere it'll fit. Use one of the little holes here. You can double stick tape it in. You can use the hole through here, through that hole, and anywhere it'll mount. And make sure your speaker will still fit after you're all done. I think this hole is probably the best one to use right there. Oops, right there. Whatever will fit. Make sure you put like some double stick tape and padding underneath the terminals so none of these can short against the chassis. Very important. And as I say, make sure your speaker will still fit wherever you're going to put this amp. Do some experimenting. You'll find you won't have any problem with that. All right, and then the final video will be the final wiring, connecting the switch and doing everything else to getting everything all together and working.